Alright, so a question I've been seeing a bit in the Dragon Ball community is who would win in a fight, Broly versus Moro. But first, if you guys like more videos like this, don't forget to comment, subscribe for more of this type of content. Also, don't forget to check out the channel Hoodie and join our community Discord server down below, and let's jump straight into it. Now, before we exactly cover who would win in a hypothetical bout, I thought it would be worthy to note and talk about their feat strengths and weaknesses first. Now, starting off with Broly, as I'm sure many of you are already aware, Broly's introduction led him into fighting Vegeta, and initially, he isn't really too much of an issue, but becomes increasingly problematic as he seems to become much more powerful as he fights, right? Very similar to the Zenkai boosts that all Saiyans have, where they become much more powerful after a tough fight, but this is basically while he's fighting, he's constantly getting one. Now, and soon he's even able to face off against Super Saiyan God without too much difficulty, which is way more than he should have been able to handle. Keep in mind that the Saiyan multipliers are still in place at this point in the franchise, and he went from facing a Super Saiyan Vegeta, which is a 50 times multiplier from base, to a Super Saiyan God, which is easily way stronger than Super Saiyan 3, which is 400 times base, in basically a blink of an eye, right? It gets out of hand so fast that even two Super Saiyan Blues are not able to handle him at once, and once he obtains his own variation of the Super Saiyan transformation, which I'm going to cover in another video, it's pretty much over, right? Ultimately, it takes a fused Gogeta post-Tournament of Power with Super Saiyan Blue to actually defeat him. Now, it's also important to note that, although Gogeta was blue, he didn't seem strained during the altercation in later portion of the fight, as he outright outclassed Broly, but we don't know if Broly would have been able to catch up with time, right? The Dragon Ball Super Broly movie is also essentially the only canonical material that we can use to extract some feats from, and although that's pretty much all we can really use for him, that's pretty impressive nonetheless. Now, moving on to Moro. Moro was the main villain of his own arc and had some pretty great growth as well. Very similar to Broly, these two foes started out not too strong, but became increasingly more and more powerful as time went on in very different manners, right? Moro's initial fight also started out against Vegeta. Although he was much weaker, his magical abilities, telekinesis, and energy absorption managed to keep him on the winning side of basically every altercation he entered in. Now, during their first fights, Moro is actually able to use energy absorption, which works very similar to the Spirit Bomb. It takes the chi of surrounding life forces, but actually takes an absurd amount by force, to the point where Vegeta and Goku couldn't transform into their Super Saiyan states. Now, as he absorbed more and more energy from both people and planets, he became more and more powerful and grew less and less facial hair until he was an absolute Chad. Seriously, this guy was a unit. He was actually weaker than Boo, as his magical abilities don't really work on magical beings, which Broly isn't anyways. But when he regained his full magical power through Porunga, he easily became more stronger than both Goku and Vegeta, even in their blue states. Later, he's actually able to defeat UI, Omen, Goku without too much difficulty as well, but needs to absorb Myoji 7-3 once Vegeta uses Force Spirit Fission to dissipate all of his gained power. After literally gobbling down 7-3, he becomes way more powerful and punches a hole through Goku's chest. At this point, he's also able to copy abilities and the attack potency of anyone he touches. He does get stronger once again once he obtains a portion of Miras's power, which is on a level close to Mastered UI Goku post-Tournament of Power, which is way stronger than it was in the Tournament of Power, when he's ultimately defeated due to losing control of his power. That was a bit of a spiel, but it is important to emphasize every time he becomes more powerful, because each of the different versions of Moro would dictate how this fight would play out. Now, starting off with Broly versus the older Moro that we see in the beginning of the Moro arc. Broly versus Moro would probably go very poorly for Moro, not gonna lie. He did initially absorb Vegeta's energy to the point where he couldn't transform into a Super Saiyan, but if Broly is as ruthless as he usually is, he wouldn't even need to go Super Saiyan to kill Moro. And that's also assuming that the first thing that Moro would do was jump to absorption, which was not initially what he did first of all. It was telekinesis. Broly's also on a different level of power, as his power at this point dwarfs Goku and Vegeta's during their first fight. So even if he did lose a portion of his power, it's likely that Moro would still get blitzed. And old Moro doesn't really have any crazy speed or strength feats to go off of, to be honest, so I would probably give this one to Broly. Now, Broly versus full powered Moro. Now, this fight's actually a whole other ball game, as when he gets his magical powers restored, he becomes way stronger than Goku and Vegeta, to the point that they need to retreat, regroup, and literally train to defeat him, right? Now, during this time, he was gradually becoming more powerful, but not significantly as much as gaining his full power in his prime through Porunga, right? So I do think think that at this point Moro is actually more powerful than Broly, as he was able to actually fully defeat a stronger UI Omen Goku than in the Tournament of Power without too much difficulty at all, while Broly lost to a Blue Gogeta, which was composed of a Goku and Vegeta in a previous point in time. Although there is a gap in power, Broly is known for becoming more and more powerful in a very short period of time, so I don't think the power itself would be too much of an issue, but, you know, the similar power combined with him getting his ki drained and having it absorbed, which may cause him, I think that'll probably cause him to lose. As at this point, if he lost Super Saiyan by getting some of his ki absorbed, he would easily lose, and he also doesn't have Force Spirit Fission, which was what was literally giving the Z Fighters an edge at this point in their fight, right? So this one would definitely go to Moro. Broly versus the OG73 Moro absorbed. Now, Broly still loses, again, for all the previous reasons and more, because although Moro did lose his previous absorbed power at this point in time, after absorbing 7-3, he does state that he does become more powerful than he was, you know, just moments before. That stacked with the fact that he can also copy Broly's power just by touching him calls for an instant loss. No point in really continuing. Anyways, I hope that cleared things up for most people. If you guys like more videos like this, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.